The next topic that I want to talk to you about are objects. Objects can be lines or shapes or images, basically anything that's not is not ink. And we talked about ink earlier with our pen tools. We'll talk about some other differences in just a second. But let's start off by just showing you some objects. So the first basic object are lines. And when you're in here in lines, you have all these default lines. They're very quick and easy to use and probably serve most of your purposes. Um, if I say, oh, I want this line, but I want it to be a little bit thicker, if I select it with my selector tool, that gives me that marquee and I can edit it. This gives me some more properties here where I can say, oh, I want it to be this thickness, right? I want it to be dashed. I want to start with a square and end with a square, and you can see that you can customize those however you want to. And once again, you can also change the color, like almost anything else that you write or draw. Same thing with ink that we learned earlier. You can change the color of it either before you do it or after. So those are basic lines. What else is under lines here? We have some cool little, like when I skipped count with my class, when we were learning to multiply by threes, we can skip count 3, 6, 9, stuff like that on a number line. So I like that one a lot. Um, So the next thing I want to show you are shapes, and shapes are very similar. You have all these default shapes that are here and ready to go. After you make it, you can select it and say, I want to fill it with this color and put this color on the outside for the line. Or you could have done that beforehand and then drew it, but you'd have to select your shape. Let's do one like that. Let's say I know I want to do a triangle, but before I draw it, I'm on my triangle. Now let's go choose my colors. I want it to be filled with green and outlined with yellow, and then I draw it. It'll have those properties that I set up ahead of time. You have these extra shapes in here. Um, just they save menu room space on the menu by adding this little drop down. So I like the speech bubble and the thought bubbles, and I use the arrows a lot. So if I want to do an arrow that has blue on the middle and purple on the outside, I now have my arrow. It's kind of nice. You can select it and rotate it around. All right, so that's the basic idea of shapes. The next category of shapes are irregular polygons. So this comes in handy with math and geometry when you want to have all equal sides and all equal angles. So that's like an equilateral triangle. It's kind of tough to use freehand and draw a perfect regular octagon with all sides equal and all angles equal. But just like that, it's done. So that's the basic idea of shapes. And once again, there's more when you do the drop down. Wow, 16 sides. Look at all those sides. They're all perfectly equal. Almost looks like a circle, right? Almost. So the next slide is more cool things that you should know about shapes. So when you're making these shapes, you can divide them into fractional parts. And it says you can do this with circles. So let's go make a quick circle. Um, and I want to do a rectangle. And let's do square. I don't think it works with the other ones, but you're free to explore that on your own. But basically, after you create your shapes, if you select them and get the marquee, you go to the drop-down menu, and it says divide the shape, and it's going to ask you how many parts do you want to divide it into. So let's divide our circle into fourths, right? 4 equal pieces. Hit OK, and it actually divides it out for you and names them, and you can actually pull them apart and piece them together with other fractional pieces. All kinds of fun stuff you can do with this. So I like that a lot. Let's come over here to the rectangle and say I wanted to do my drop down menu, divide shape, and let's put it into, I don't know, 8 equal pieces. Hit OK. Same thing. You can pull all those pieces apart and do other activities with it, find out what they're equivalent to, what they're equal to. You have a square over here, and same thing, drop down menu, divide the shape, and let's just do this one in halves or thirds. Let's do thirds, and hit OK. We have thirds. If for some reason you don't see the fractional names when you do this, it's probably because your shape was too small. So draw a larger shape and then divide it, and those names will come in there. It'll always divide it for you, but if you drew a small one, those pieces are going to be small and you won't see the text on the inside. So that's cool. What else do I want to show you? Inside of a shape, let's do a triangle for this one. Any shape that has corners, like vertices, that means it has angles and sides. What you can do is you can select it and go to the marquee drop down, and you can say show the vertices. That lets you see the corners, right? And I'm also, let's just turn them all on. I can say show the interior angles. That gives me the measure in degrees of each angle. And the last one says show the links. What this does is give me a generic units length for each side. It's kind of important to talk about that. This is just units, not inches or feet, because it depends on your projector, or if you're just working from a computer screen, it's not going to translate directly into any units that we use regularly. But you can see how the sides relate to each other when angles change. You can actually click these and move them around. And you can see the relationship between the angles, how they change, and also the lengths of the sides, right? The unit of the length of the sides is getting much larger when I stretch that out, right? And then the angle is actually getting smaller. So there's all kinds of relationship stuff you can talk about here using those features. I like that a lot. What else? Irregular polygons. Irregular polygons are under tools. Um, Irregular polygons. So that's not going to be in your shortcut menu. But what that does is, I haven't used this a lot, but when you do this, it lets you like pick all your vertices, and you can make any type of polygon you want just by clicking the corners, right? So just a quick, easy way to draw those irregular polygons that don't have equal sides and equal angles. So you can kind of quickly draw whatever you want with that feature. I like that. And you can automatically add text to a shape. So let's just do an easy one, like a rectangle. So if I have a rectangle and I want to put a word inside of it, let's even give it a background color super fast. Let's say I want to fill that with yellow and have a black ground. There we go. If I double click on it, I can just start typing text, and it's automatically going to be put on that item, and I can move it around. It's part of it. If I want to click it and edit it, I just double click. So you just double click on any shape and you should be able to add text into the middle of it. So one more slide about ink and objects, then we'll be done with this section. So we learned about ink earlier, and now we learned about different types of objects. And what I want to show you is that you can erase ink, right? Ink erases. Ooh, that orange is not erasing. I wonder why. I locked that down. So I wanted to show you how to lock things down. So if I select this, there's a little lock on it. How did I do that? Here's regular ink, and if I do the eraser now, it'll erase, because ink will erase. But if I lock it, I won't be able to erase it. So I'm going to lock that down, go to my marquee and my drop-down menu and go to lock it in place, and now I can't erase it. So it won't go anywhere. So if you're building something, you don't want the students to mess with it, they can write on it, but you don't want them to erase this part. Maybe it's the instructions or something like that. It's always good to lock it down. How do I get rid of this shape? This is an object, so this is a key difference. Objects you cannot erase. So this is something that I've seen lots of teachers get frustrated with, and it's very simple. Objects, you have to select them, get the marquee, and it's as easy as going to the drop-down menu. There is a delete, or what I use most of the time is I select it, and there's a little X right here, and you can delete it. So I can delete objects just like that. But guess what? This one I can't delete because I locked it. Just like I had locked this ink, I locked this shape, which means I can't delete it. It won't do it. So I have to actually click the lock, unlock it, and then delete it. So it does take an extra step there. It helps you protect the content of your slide, so you don't accidentally delete things. So, and text counts as an object. So actually, this is where I see teachers get the most frustrated with it. Like, they want to erase their text. How do I get rid of it, right? Well, once it's turned into text, it's now an object. So you have to select it, and then you can delete it.